Hi everyone, welcome to the second webinar of the 2016-2017 School Finder webinar series. I'm your host Chris Kerr and I work at School Finder. For the past 20 years, School Finder has grown to become the leader in Canada for providing educational resources to both students and educators. The School Finder group of websites consists of School Finder for Canadian students to find schools throughout the world, Study in Canada for international students to find schooling in Canada, Scholarships Canada for finding scholarships to help fund your education, and Grad School Finder for the aspiring grad student. As we like to say around here, we're here to help students find schools and schools find students. Today I'm joined by four panelists from across Canada and across the Atlantic. I have Justin Hackett from Tyndale University College and Seminary, and Sean Heimers from Lakehead University to cover applying in Ontario. I have Jose Castro from BPP University, and he'll be covering applying to schools in England, and Megan Kahn from UNBC for applying to schools in BC. I'll be covering the application process for applying to schools in Alberta, as we have no one from Alberta present, and I'll also be covering how you can use schoolfinder.com to your advantage during the application process. After this presentation, we'll be holding a Q&A session, which you can submit to during the webinar by using the questions tab that's on the GoToWebinar program. I'll start everything off with schoolfinder.com and how it can help you. We have many tools that'll help with every stage of your post-secondary journey, and it'll make it a lot less of a headache. I'll start off with using the search function, comparing schools and programs, checking prerequisites, saving lists to your profile, and using the request info button. So if you've explored the School Finder site, there's a good chance you probably know a decent amount of this, so I'm just going to kind of go over it pretty quickly, but it's all useful tools that can really help everything go a lot smoother for you. And that's exactly what we're here for. So the first tool is the search function on our site. It works for both programs and for schools. You can narrow down your search using a number of filters once you've begun the search. So if you know you want to study in BC, or if you want to study biology, you can start breaking down schools using that. Once you have an idea of what you want to study or where you want to study, you can start saving and comparing all of the programs to your profile. You can compare 3 of them at a time, and you can edit your compare list at any time, and you can have as many as you want. So this will help you kind of narrow down by program, so you can really kind of get rid of ones that you know you aren't really qualified for. So like I said about qualifications, while you're comparing schools, you'll see the qualifications on every school's page. You'll notice there that it says the cost per year as well as prerequisites. This could affect your final choices based on the cost per year, for example. A good example of this is most paramedic courses across Canada, they require you to have chemistry in grade 12, but there's a lot that don't. So if you're not good at chemistry, then you still have options. You don't have to just narrow down your search through that. A great way to stay organized is to save schools and programs that you're interested in on your profile. There's no limits to what you can save, so just go nuts. And once you rule out a school, you can remove it from your saved list. You can also use your saved programs page to start the process of comparing. So when you go on to schoolfinder.com, you can go into your dashboard, and everything you save will appear on the My Programs or My Schools tab. You can save anything on our site by clicking the little star that's just beside everything. That'll save it to your dashboard. Then you can go in later and you can freely just look at everything. We also have the compare tool built right into the My Programs page, so that'll really help you that'll help you kill off a lot of the programs that you might not be interested in. Probably one of our most powerful tools to help you find your best options for school is the Request Info button on each school's landing page. By using this, you'll fill out a quick form that'll be sent directly to the university or college, and then they'll be able to get back to you via the email address or phone number that you supply. So it's a great way to get in contact for asking a quick question or needing a full explanation on something. It's, like I said, it's one of our most powerful tools, and it's something that you should definitely be using if you're interested in a specific school or a specific program. So getting out of explaining School Finder, I'll lead into the Alberta schools and how to start your application process with them. Alberta doesn't have a central application service like Ontario does, but it does have a service to help you make everything a bit more simple. It's a website called applyalberta.ca. That's the solution that they have. And by signing up, you can make everything a little bit more streamlined. The process is simple. To start, you'll need your legal name as it appears on your driver's license or your birth certificate, your Alberta student number, or ASN. If you don't have one of these, so if you're not an Alberta student, you can generate one during the sign-up process on Apply Alberta. You'll also need your high school transcripts from every high school that you've attended, and you'll need a credit card to pay for application fees to individual schools. Once you've gathered all this information, you go through the sign-up process and then select the schools you want to apply to. When you select them, you'll be brought to the final stage on their own website, so not on Apply Alberta. It'll link you off the individual schools. And then that will have all of your sign-up process filled out up until the actual click of the submit button on their website. So that's how it kind of streamlines everything. It makes everything kind of on the same page, even if it is applying off of the page. And one thing to know is that there's no standard charge for application fees. It's entirely up to the schools. So don't be surprised if some are maybe a bit more expensive or if they're not all the same price, because they're not all the same price. Also with Alberta, you can only apply to 6 schools. Hopefully this helps with applying to Alberta, and if you need any more help or a reminder on the stages, Apply Alberta offers an in-depth tutorial on how to use their site. And now we'll hear from Justin Hackett, the Assistant Director of Admissions at Tyndale University College and Seminary. Take it away, Justin.
Thanks, Chris. Welcome, everybody. We're very happy to be with you today, and hopefully this is beneficial for you. It sounds like Shauna from Lakehead will be giving an in-depth look at applying to public universities in Ontario. So I'm not going to go too in-depth into that process, but I do want to provide you with some questions to ask yourselves as you start the process of applying to schools, and also just some answers to those questions, hopefully. So there's 3 things that I'm going to cover in the next few minutes. The first is, do you know how to apply, where to apply, and when to apply? And these are important questions because there are different categories of universities in Canada. Of course, there's the public universities, and there are public universities in each of the provinces. So residents within those provinces would have a different process than residents from outside of the province, and we'll talk about that very briefly. There's also private non-for-profit universities like Tyndale. There are others you may have heard of, Trinity Western University. If you're out east, you may have heard of Crandall University. These are all private non-for-profit universities, and the application process is different for those schools. So those are good questions to ask. And then secondly, we'll talk about, have you researched your programs of interest? And there can be a different process for that too. And then lastly, do you know the costs of the application you're pursuing? So we'll cover those 3. So Chris, you can go to the next slide, please. how, when, where to apply to universities. So public universities, if you are in Ontario and you're planning to apply to an Ontario public university, one of the important dates that you'll need to know is January 11th, 2017, if you are currently in grade 12. If you're not in grade 12, you're in grade 11, it would be around that time in 2018, but these are dates that your guidance counselors and teachers will keep you well informed of. If you're in grade 12 now, you're probably starting to hear about the Ontario University Application Center. And I don't want to steal Shauna's thunder, so I won't go too much into that, but that is the website if you're interested in a public university in Ontario where you would be thinking of an out-of-province public university. Chris talked about Alberta already, but of course each of the provinces has public universities as well. The application process is a bit different. You're not going to OUAC, the OUAC website, to apply to that school. You are likely going to their individual website and learning how you can apply. There's different processes for each school in each province. Now, private non-for-profit universities like Tyndale, the deadlines are different. If you're in Ontario, Tyndale and Redeemer is another private not-for-profit university in Ontario. Our deadlines often mirror what the public universities do in terms of when you can expect to hear back an admissions decision. But you're going to want to check with that specific university's admissions office because otherwise you might miss a deadline. Often for private not-for-profit universities, the deadlines are a bit softer, so they're not necessarily deadlines where if you don't submit your application by a certain date, you're going to miss out, but it's still good to know what their recommended application deadlines are because there might be important things attached to that date, like if you apply by a certain date, you might be eligible for certain scholarships or eligible to hear about an admissions decision a bit earlier. They're important. So if a school is putting that up on their website, you should pay attention to it. Yeah, and also when it comes to transcripts, for public universities, at least in Ontario, likely your guidance counselor would prepare your transcript, which is the document that has all of your grades on it from your high school career from grade 9 all the way up through grade 12. If you're thinking of an out-of-province university or a private not-for-profit university like Tyndale, you would likely need to request that your guidance counselor send that transcript directly to us. So keep that in mind as well. Next slide, Chris, please. Program requirements. Like I said, every university will have different requirements, and that goes for your program of interest. Depending on what program you are looking to apply to, you will likely have different entrance requirements for those programs. So keep that in mind as well. Some schools, like Tyndale and other private not-for-profit universities that are a bit smaller, you're not necessarily applying to a program or a faculty. You're applying more to the school, and then you can choose within that. Once you're accepted to that school, you can choose a program. You have some mobility. The process of changing a program or changing your major depend on the school. Generally, private schools, it's a little bit a simpler process because you haven't been admitted into a certain faculty or program. You have been able to, you're accepted into the school, and then you can choose, usually within the first 2 years, which major you're going to pursue. That's the model. Often that is a bit different. But yeah, so if you're thinking of a public university, check the program requirements for that program. And of course, be in contact with the admissions office as early as possible to make sure that you're getting the minimum program requirements in to those schools and that you meet them. And sometimes you have enough time, if you've given yourself enough time. If you don't meet the minimum program requirements at that point, you have enough time to maybe get your marks up or upgrade certain courses, your UNM level courses if you're in Ontario, to a certain mark so that you can be eligible for those programs. So those are things to keep in mind. Last slide, please. Application costs. I'm sure Shauna will talk more about this, but the base application fee for the Ontario University application, which is how you apply to all of the 22 public universities in Ontario, is $150, and that's for the first 3 university program choices. Now, if you are wanting to apply to more programs, you can, but each additional after those 3 are an additional $50. So you can think of that application as being essentially $50 per program, and that is sort of a good way to think of it. So if you are thinking about a private non-for-profit university, generally you would apply directly on that institution's website. So even for private non-for-profit universities that are in Ontario, you would not go through the OUAC, you would apply directly on the institution's website. So that is a little bit of a bummer in that you can't do everything at once, but there are some silver linings, and one of them is that generally the applications to private not-for-profit universities are free, and if they aren't free, they probably have an apply-by date that if you apply by a certain day, it is free. And the reason that's good if you're thinking about, say, Tyndale, University of Toronto, and Waterloo, and maybe one other school, York, that's 4 schools. But if you're applying to a private not-for-profit school, that's a free 4th choice. So that's one way to think about it. If you're only thinking about private not-for-profit schools, it can allow you to apply to a number of schools with not much of a financial strain, or if there is a little bit of money needed, it wouldn't be a large amount. So it just depends on what you're looking for. So if a lot of you are probably considering only public, and probably a handful of you are considering only private, and the rest of you are probably considering a whole bunch of different choices. So keep these things in mind. And if you have any doubts about how to apply, just go to that institution's website, and you should find the answer there. Thank you all for listening. I'll be with you at the end to answer any questions you might have.
All right, thanks, Justin. We'll hear more about Ontario from Lakehead later on in the presentation, as Justin mentioned. And now we'll move on to Jose Castro, the Regional Director of the Americas and Caribbean from BPP University. Jose?
Hi, Chris. Thank you. Thanks, everyone, for joining us tonight. Well, let's talk about applying to UK universities. I'm the Regional Director for one of the UK universities. Well, as an outsider, I've been in the UK for the last 15 to 16 years. I studied in Wales, University of Wales, and then later I studied LSE. And yeah, well, that's everything about me. A little bit of the background there on the slide. Next one, Chris, please. Okay, so what is the benefit of studying in the UK? That's what I'm going to cover here. Then the application process with UCAS, focus on the personal statement, funding, and then we're going to talk about BPP University very brief at the end. Next one, Chris. Okay, so studying in the UK, well, as you might be aware, UK education is highly rewarded. Well, 600 years of higher education is great history, great universities there, Cambridge, Oxford, student facilities, also the student environment is great. International community, well, based in London, is one of the more diverse cities. The fees are quite competitive too, and something quite good is also the work permit. You get 20 hours a week work permit, and it's off campus, and you get also full-time work permit during holidays. Next one, Chris. Okay, so in the UK, you find probably around 300 plus institutions that offer higher education. You have universities, you have specialist institutions, you have few private universities, but I will say most of the UK universities are public. And the difference between England, Wales, and Scotland probably is the system. So in England, you complete A-levels, what you probably call high school, and then you go into a 3 years undergraduate degree. In Scotland, you complete 12 years or 13 years A-levels, then you go into a 4 years undergraduate degree. So pretty much like the US. Next one, Chris. So, well, the undergraduate degrees in the UK is a massive variety of programs from acting to zoology. I mean, the educational system is quite characterized by independent scholarships, critical thinking. So it's quite a lot of job that you have to do yourself. I believe like in the United States and Canada, it's pretty much the same system. So a lot of the time you have to do a lot of work on your own. The contact classes that you will have is not really that much. I will tell you that if for a subject, probably you will be in a classroom in a semester, probably 20 hours. Everything else is outside the classroom. So a lot of time spent in the library, writing reports, writing research. So it's a lot of self-learning. But of course you have the support of the university, but most of the time, and probably some international students find the way a little bit frustrating in a sense that there is not much classroom experience, and it's more like up to the student to develop his skills throughout the educational process. And the undergraduate degrees are different, so it depends where you are. In England, Wales, and Northern Ireland, it's normally 3 years, and it's 4 years in Scotland. Next one, Chris. And then, well, let's talk about the undergraduate degree. So you had two types of degrees. You had the business, the Bachelor of Science honors, and then you had the BA honors. I mean, the difference between one and the another is pretty much the BA is focused in everything to do with interdisciplinary degrees, like, for example, degrees in humanities or degrees in social science and to be BA honors. BSc honors is a single honor, so it's only one subject. For example, economics to be like BSc honors, psychology, and that's sort of one subject, one major tend to be BSc honors. And then you got combined degrees, like for example, BSc honors in biomedical science, biomedicine, chemistry, and music. You find that sort of like slightly weird degrees, but to be honest, most of the students will normally go for one single honor. So either a BSc or a BA. It's very rare to find someone that is doing a combined degree. I mean, from my experience in the UK education sector, there are not many universities that really offer that sort of combined degrees. Few of them, like King's, for example, King's College, they offer a BSc, for example, in medicine, combined with some sort of related science. But they are really rare. There are not many like that. And then you had the professional degrees, like medicine, dentistry, law, architecture, and business. Next one, Chris. So I'm just going to run very quick because I just got like 6 minutes or 4 minutes left. So this is an example of a BA honors in history. 3 years. The first year is like, compulsory subjects. Then year 2, you normally have the options of, pick some sort of subjects that you want to see. Year 3 is more like a sort of a specialized year, and then you have something called dissertation, which is like the equivalent to a thesis degree. Next one, Chris. The application process in the UK is quite straightforward, so everything is done through UCAS. So you go to this website called ucas.com. You're going to find absolutely all information on how to apply. It's extremely easy, quite straightforward. You have 5 choices of universities. Keep in mind the deadlines. So, for example, for UK students is, UK and European and home students basically, is the 15th of January. But, I mean, the sooner you apply, the better. So, for example, if you're planning to apply for September next year, UCAS open already. They normally open in September, so you can put the application straight away. Except for medicine and dentistry, application deadlines tend to be quite high. So if you're planning to apply for medicine or dentistry next year, you missed the deadline already. But for all the other disciplines, you still got choices. You still got until the 15th of January. Next one, Chris. Okay, so intakes, normally, like in Canada, I believe most of the universities will have one intake, which is in September. Some universities have January intake, but I will say 95% of the universities focus on one intake, which is normally September. So the way you start is you start submitting your applications to UCAS right now. at the beginning of September until the mid of January. Then if you're applying for medicine or dentistry or you're applying to Oxford, Cambridge, you need to put your application as soon as possible before the 15th of October. And then the 15th of January is the deadline for applications, and that's why we advise all the students to submit the application in UCAS. 24th of March, some are design course still accept applications, and then on the 30th of June, applications are held for clearing. So basically, you have 5 choices. If you are not selected by any of the 5 universities, in clearing, you have the choice to apply for another university that probably is another choice that you couldn't apply before, that you didn't want to apply before, and then probably you will make it. So the idea with clearing is that if there is any place available, we will give it to any student that wants to apply that was not selected by the other 5 universities. Next one, Chris. So how to make an application? Again, takes scores, obtained or predicted, your academic records. If you have additional tests, the university will tell you. I mean, this is really difficult to tell you because there is no one admission requirement. It changes from university to university. Reference and the personal statement, which is quite important. Some universities will ask for interviews. It depends on the subject that you're doing. If you're doing medicine, for example, normally you would have to go for an interview. Next one, Chris. So the personal statement is quite important and it's relevant in the application process, and it's to tell the admissions officer or the admission advisor why you should be selected to be in that particular university. A lot of the time, we base the application admission process when we find few candidates with pretty much the same grades and the same sort of educational background. We base the admission process purely on the personal statement. So the personal statement has to be quite well tailored to the program that you're applying, but also the university that you're applying. Next one, Chris, and I explain a little bit about the personal statement in the next one. So this is what you probably want to focus your application a lot. I mean, grades and all the stuff is really easy to find because you just get from your school. But the personal statement is your own work, your own words on that. You know, you spend time on writing it, and it's the way you tell the admissions officer that you know you are up to the level for that particular institution and that particular program. So you need to be quite enthusiastic about what you say. You need to show evidence about what you've done. For example, if you had done voluntary work or you had done some sort of extracurricular activities, you know, show it off, mention it, make sure that you mention that throughout the personal statement. Also, if you had, you know, experience in leadership, communications, teamwork, make sure you mention it. This is an example here. Probably you can just look at that later. Same guy, same student doing the same job, but the way he tailored, the way he has, you know, the way he probably put that forward is totally different. So it's good to find the sort of, even if you had work experience which you find not relevant, the way you probably express that work experience in your personal statement will make a great difference. And also, you know, talk to your friends. Also, universities, like for example, our university will normally tend to help the students with the personal statement. You know, not to do the personal statement, but to give them a little bit of advice on how to do it, and spend a lot of time on doing it. Next one, Chris. So you had 2 types of offers. So if you've been accepted to any UK university, you had either a conditional offer or an unconditional offer. The conditional, of course, because you are missing some sort of conditions, normally comes to do with grades. So for example, you're applying with predicted grades, the conditional offer will say, you know, you've been accepted, but you know, final grades. Unconditional offer is that you had no condition whatsoever. It's like a sort of a binding contract. It means the university has accepted your application and you're fine to go. The deadlines to accept the offer, it depends on the university actually, but most of the time tends to be around May, mid-May normally. So the final deadline is normally written in the offer letter and it's up to the university. Next one, please. So the funding and the tuition fee in the UK is normally between 9,300 to up to 25,000 pounds per year. It depends on where you are, depends on the university. There are some scholarships there for international students, so you need to do a lot of research on that. There is not a particular website that I can refer you for scholarships in the UK, but normally universities will have a lot of information on their website talking about scholarships, funding for international students, and so on. As I mentioned before, international students can work part-time, so that's a great idea for you to get a little bit of pocket money while you study in the UK. Next one, Chris. So, I mean, the great part of the university and, and studying in the UK is probably the great exposure that you're going to have to a cosmopolitan and well-diverse society. But also within the university, you will find students from all, corners of the world. I mean, in my university, for example, we had students from 140 different nationalities. You get involved in different, student unions. You had, the chance to, I mean, you are really into sports or you are really into some sort of societies and clubs. You have all the chances to do it when you study in any UK university per se. And also work and employability. A lot of universities in the UK are focusing on, getting students ready for the workplace. So a lot of universities you will find are shifting from purely research to help students to get into internships, work experience, work placement, and so on and so forth. Next one, Chris. So I'm just going to touch very quick about BPP University, and I'm done. So, BPP University is the name of the founders of the university, Mr. Briley, Mr. Price, and Mr. Pryor. As a UK university, we had degree awarding body powers, and also you had the right to work off campus when you study with BPP. Next one, Chris. We had around 140 different nationalities represented within the student body, and the university had some sort of partnership with 80% of the FTSE 100. That's the 80 largest companies in the UK, companies like KPMG, Vodafone, and so on. Altogether, we have around 50,000 students studying in the UK in different programs in business, accountancy, and so on. Next one, please. So we have 4 schools. We have the law school, the business school, and the school of health. That's probably where you are interested. Next one, Chris. That's our main location in London. So you can see we had 6 different campuses in London. So the business school in the City of London in the financial district, the law school in Holborn, Waterloo. There is another school in Shepherd Bush and in Croydon. But we have locations in Manchester, Leeds, Cambridge, Liverpool, Birmingham, and Bristol. So most of the students will be located in London and Manchester. I haven't seen that many international students in other cities, but probably London and Manchester is the most famous destination. Next one, please. There you go. That's where we are. In terms of the undergrad program that we offer at BPP University, with the law school, we had the LLB, the law degree. If you're planning to study law, I think it's a great thing to do in England because of the fact that once you finish high school, you are accepted into any, not just our university, absolutely any university in the UK. Once you finish high school, you will be accepted to do a law degree. And once you complete the law degree, that law degree is accepted by the CBA, by the Canadian Bar Association, to take the bar exam. So opposite to the US and Canada, in the UK you're accepted to law school right after high school, and that's great advantage if you're planning to do law, to consider UK as a destination, same as medicine. Next one, please. And then we had the undergrad degrees in the business school. So we had the traditional business management program. It's a 3-year program. We had the degree in business management with finance, accounting and finance. We had a degree in international hospitality. And if you are from an international background and you don't have A-levels or high school, for example, in Canada, you still can do a foundation program and then later progress into a business degree. Next one, Chris. And then we had the undergraduate degrees in the health school. So we got BSc in psychology. which, by the way, is also recognized by the Canadian Psychological Society. We had the undergraduate degree in chiropractic, which is also recognized by the Chiropractitioner Society Canada. So with these two undergraduate degrees, if you study in the UK, you find to go back to Canada, take the exams. If you pass the exam successfully, then you're going to practice. And we had a couple of more degrees there, the higher education certificate in health, a nursing degree, and that's pretty much all. Next one, Chris. And then we had short courses. This is a great way if you want to study in the UK to go and experience UK for a month. 4 weeks is a normal program, which is focused in a particular area. Our short courses are focused in law, business, international business, and we have dental summer school. I mean, this is a great way. If you're planning to study in the UK, probably you would like to go and experience UK education, spend a few weeks there, get to see how the education is there, and then later make the decision. A lot of the students that I know, they tend to go to the UK for summer courses normally, or winter courses, experience the university they would like to study, and then make a intelligent decision if whether they want to be there or not. Next one, Chris. And that's all about me. So that's you got my contact details there. If you want to study either with us or with any other university in the UK, I'm more than happy to give you any advice in applications or anything related to funding, scholarships, even living in the UK. So just get my details, and happy to talk to you later, guys, if you have any questions. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Jose. So studying in the UK isn't as complicated as it may seem, or sorry, not that as it may seem. Jose, you made it look very easy, actually. So it can actually lead to a really great life experience. So it's something that I would recommend some people. If you can do it, then definitely go for it. Next up, we'll hear from Megan Kahn, a student recruitment officer at the University of Northern British Columbia. Megan?
Hi, everyone. So, like Chris said, my name is Megan, and I'm a student recruitment officer at the University of Northern British Columbia. We are located in Prince George, BC, so we're smack dab middle of the province, 8 hours west of Edmonton and 8 hours north of Vancouver. So I'm just going to talk sort of generally about applying to post-secondary institutions in British Columbia, as the process is a bit different than in the other provinces. So for example, in BC right now, it's largely just a application process that is very individualized to each institution. So if a student is looking to apply to, let's say, UNBC, College of the Rockies, and University of Victoria, they would most likely have to go to each individual school's website and apply that way. Applications as well as deadlines and requirements vary by institution. And we've heard from a few other panelists that, when you're looking at a school or a particular program, a website like School Finder is absolutely perfect to sort of look at those programs and look at the various requirements, because not every program requires the exact same thing. For example, if you're going into nursing, sometimes they'll require, if you're in BC, Pre-Calculus 12. Some will require Foundations of Math 12. If you're in Alberta, that could be the difference between 30-1 or 30-2 level math, and so on and so forth. So definitely just be aware of various programs and sort of what they're looking for. Some require supplemental applications, some just grades. It really varies based on the school. Just as an example, UNBC's early entrance deadline is actually December 15th. Other institutions sort of around that December deadline. I know for a fact that UBC's right now is December 1st. So just things to be aware of. We'll go to the next slide. So because our system in BC is quite different, you're looking at various different websites and trying to navigate all those different pins and logins, the area of transcripts becomes something of question. So in BC, we've actually made it quite easy in this respect. So there is a government website, and on it there's a post-secondary institutions or PSI selection form. So essentially, if students from BC, just go into Google and type in Ministry of Education. Also, counselors are wonderful at describing this process. Students can go onto this website, type in their BC PEN, and essentially choose up to 5 different institutions that they would like their final BC transcript sent to. So if a student is looking at school, they can indicate just that one. If they're looking at up to 5, that's when they can do that. If a student is looking at sending transcripts to more than 5 institutions, they can connect with their high school counselor, or you can separately. The great thing about the PSI selection form for BC students is that midterm grades and final grades, if the process is completed early enough, are electronically sent to the institutions that they choose. So once students complete this process, they really don't have to lift a finger in terms of getting transcripts sent to the institutions they're looking to apply to. For students applying to BC from out of province, essentially you're just going to go to your high school counselor or your guidance office, main office, wherever, and ask them to send us midterm grades as well as final grades. Sometimes midterm grades can be unofficial, so they can just be emailed to us or faxed to us. Final grades, however, at the end of the day, so July, around June or July when you're finishing up high school, those will have to be official, so they do need to be in a sealed envelope from the sending institution, whether that's the Ministry of Education or your high school. We'll go to the next slide. So we'll use UNBC as an example in British Columbia. So we have the website right there, unbc.ca/apply. This would be sort of similar for any institution, whether it's public or private in BC. Unofficial transcripts can go to this particular email address. So the nice thing about sending sometimes an unofficial transcript or a midterm grade is it might get the process started a bit earlier. For us at UNBC, it definitely gets the process started. We would like to admit students, before we're getting their final grades all the way in July, because as we know, we'd like to know before July that we're admitted. So unofficial transcripts are a great route to go in terms of that. And then official transcripts do need to be sent to the Office of the Registrar, whether it's through that PSI selection form, so done electronically through the ministry, or whether it's just a high school counselor sending us along an official transcript or document. And then on the next slide, this is similar to Alberta in the sense that we do have a website called Apply BC. It is a work in progress right now, and what it's looking to become is a common application portal. So it is sort of up and running right now, and if students are looking to apply to BC institutions, they can go on to the website, select an institution they're looking for, and it'll prompt you with all of sort of your personal profile questions, your name, your date of birth, your BC PEN. So like Alberta or other provinces, you do have a specific student number, so it'll prompt you for that. It isn't necessary, but it does help the process along if the student has it with them. And at the end of the day, it sort of says, you've created an Education Planner BC profile. And then once you've done that, it actually redirects you to the selected institution for you to complete your application. So like in Alberta, all institutions have various fees. So some institutions I know are free to apply to, others it might be, depends on the institution. So Apply BC right now is more so just a place for students to go on, they can create a profile, and the nice thing about this is if you are looking to apply to more than one institution, it sort of saves you the hassle of typing in your name, your date of birth, your grades and everything, 3 or 4 times. So it is very handy in that sense, but at the end of the day, it does direct you to individual school websites in order to complete your application and get that process going. So that is kind of just a really brief bit on applying to BC institutions. Like I said, it really depends on the institution. Working as a recruitment officer, I've traveled with many BC institutions and know quite a bit about all of the various sort of processes. But again, the best way, if you ever have questions about programs or school-specific applications, is to contact the school directly. And that is it for me until questions.
All right. Well, thanks, Megan. Lastly, we'll hear from Shauna Heimers from Lakehead University. But first, I'll remind you now that if you have any questions for any of the panelists or myself, you can submit them through the questions tab. But now let's hear from Shauna.
Hi everyone, my name's Shauna and I'm an admissions officer at Lakehead University. As Justin mentioned earlier, for undergraduate programs in public Ontario universities, we have a centralized application service called the Ontario University's Application Centre. And this is where our applicants will go to apply. For current high school students, you fill out the 101 application through the Ontario University's Application Centre. And to do that, you first have to get a PIN from your guidance department so that you can create an account online with the OUAC. Once you have that PIN number, you can go in and browse the programs for each university if you're not sure which program you're looking to apply for. Most of the universities have their admission requirements right on the OUAC website. So once you figure out the programs you're going to apply to, you can add those choices to the application. And you are given 3 choices, a fee of $150. If you're looking to submit additional choices, it would be $50 for each additional choice. And for Lakehead, once you've submitted the application through the application center and we receive it from them, we email you a username and password for your Lakehead email and My Info account. And once you have that information, you can log into your Lakehead account to check the status of your application. So everything's done online. If you're applying from out of Ontario, the process is basically the same. You still go through the OUAC, but you use a different application. So for current high school students, you use, in Ontario, I should say, you use the 101 application. And for any out-of-province high school students, you use the 105 application, and you don't require that PIN number from your guidance department for that one. As Justin mentioned earlier, there is a deadline for current high school students across Ontario, and that's January 11th, 2017. And I can just go over our general admission requirements too. Can you go to the next slide, Chris? So our general admission requirements are that you have the Ontario Secondary School Diploma or the equivalent if you're out of province. We need a minimum of 6 12U or M courses if you're in Ontario, including program prerequisites, and a minimum of 70% based on your best 6 best 12U or M level courses. And we do consider summer school courses as well. If you need to take a course again in the summer, we would consider that as part of your application. Can you go to the next slide? We'll just go over our timeline of dates. So this is all geared mostly towards Ontario high school students. The application is open now. We are about to go out with early offers at the end of this month, and those early offers are based on grade 11 marks. So if you have really high grade 11 marks, it's possible to receive an early offer of admission. And generally, we try to get those packages out before Christmas so that students have those early offers before then. But if you don't get an early offer, it's nothing to worry about because we go out with our next round in February. Would be the first round of offers based on grade 12 marks. So we just need to wait for the Ontario University's Application Centre to receive those marks from each guidance department. And then as soon as we have those marks, we can go out with the first round of offers. Can you go to the next slide, Chris? And then the next one. So basically, once we start going out with offers, we'll continue to go out. We have several offers of 101s as we continue to receive more grade information from the OUAC. And the final round of offers would be going out around July 10th. So you should have heard something by July 10th, and the deadline to meet all conditions on your offer of admission, which would be having obtained your secondary school diploma and then final grades for all of the courses, including completion of summer courses if you needed to take any, would be August 11th. And courses would start in September 5th for next year. So basically, that's mostly the application process for public Ontario universities. So if anyone has any questions later on, I'll be happy to answer them for you.
All right. Thanks, Shauna. Knowing all the dates for applying is something that all students really should begin to memorize. There's some very important dates in there. But that's all from our panelists in terms of presentation. So I'll give you guys a couple of minutes to submit questions, and we'll start the Q&A session shortly. All right, so we got a couple of questions coming in. I'm fielding some of them that are general questions, so if you get a text answer from me, don't think you're less important. Every question is big. So I will start with someone who's looking to balance playing basketball at a post-secondary team in Western Canada, but also do a biology-related program. So I'm going to get UNBC to field that question. He wants to know if it would be too difficult to balance being on the basketball team, assuming he makes it, and then also having a full load biology course.
Hi. So I can definitely field that question. Can everybody hear me though?
Yep.
Perfect. So for athletes, we actually do have a CIS level basketball team, so we deal with varsity athletes all the time. Essentially what we do is we work with our athletes, and most universities will do this. We know that you travel a lot, you have very busy schedules, you practice a lot in the evening, so essentially wherever you apply, and hopefully wherever you get accepted, university-wise as well as to play basketball, just go in and talk to your academic advisors or your recruitment officers or admissions, whoever it is that's going to help you plan your courses. Go in and talk to them as early as possible to ensure that they know that you're going to be playing basketball and you are busier than usual, so they can help you make a schedule that works for you. For example, we suggest that our basketball students take 3 to 4 classes a semester, especially in the September semester, because that's when your season is. And we work with our students to make sure that, we try to have lectures or labs that you can't miss. We don't put them on Fridays. We know you travel a lot on Fridays for games and for tournaments, as well as things like, night lectures or night labs, probably not the best thing just because you're going to be practicing. So we will work really closely with students as well as coaches to make sure that you find a schedule that works for you. If you're worried about not completing a degree in 4 years or however much time you're looking for, keep in mind there's always things like online classes. You can take more than 3 classes for sure in the next semester when you're not when it's not your season. And there's always things like summer classes as well, or classes at other institutions, to make sure that you are covering off what you need in order to get your degree in a timely manner. So it's definitely doable. That's what I'm trying to say.
All right. So I'm going to turn it over to BPP for this question. We have someone wondering, can I get some more info on the summer or short courses, for example, the Intro to Entrepreneurship for schools in the UK?
Hi, Chris. Yes, totally. I mean, definitely. I'm happy to give you more information. The summer course normally happens between the 1st of June until the end of June. So it's a whole month of summer where you're going to have the experience to, in this particular subject, entrepreneurship. We have other subjects like law and business. Yeah, I'm happy to provide the information to the particular person. I mean, you give me the email address. The program, and it's normally with all the universities, it's normally like 4 weeks summer courses, not just with us. They normally tend to have like 3 weeks, 4 weeks. I can tell you, for example, King's, UCL, LSE, Cambridge, Oxford, all of them have summer courses, and they tend to be, again, around June or July. So if this is the particular one that you're looking for, I'm happy to provide information about that one. I just need your contact details, so get in touch with Chris, and through Chris I can send you all the information. But also for any other school, you look into the website, you're going to find that the summer courses tend to be pretty much alike at the same time, and they normally last for like 3 to 4 weeks. I hope it's that clear with the question, Chris.
Yeah, I think that was good. The person who asked it, like Jose said, you can feel free to email me. My email is on the screen right now. I can put you in touch with Jose if you didn't write down his email from before, and he can help clear things up through emails after that.
Yes.
I have someone asking, when do we pay the university fee? So I'll get Lakehead to answer that. I know it varies based on everything else, but this way everyone gets to answer some questions.
So when you receive an offer of admission and you are a current high school student in Ontario, the deadline date is June 1st, 2017 to accept your offer of admission through your OUAC account, and also confirm with your deposit at the individual school that you've applied to.
All right, perfect. Someone wants to know, this is actually the final question, sorry. Someone wants to know if they plan to apply to an online university, would they have to go through the same application process as an on-campus university? So do any of you know a lot about online courses?
I can try to address that. So this is Justin from Tyndale. So you can, it depends on if you're looking for an online-only university or an online program through another university. So if it's an online program just with a program that has on-campus courses as well, oftentimes the application process would be the same. You would only be looking at paying tuition and not room and board. It obviously wouldn't be living on campus in that case, but in terms of the application process, it should be almost identical. But like I was saying before, each school is a little bit different, and online-only universities or online-mostly universities would differ a little bit. I'm thinking particularly of Athabasca. They have an on-campus, they have a campus in Alberta, but a lot of students take online courses through them. You would just want to check with the school individually, but often the application process would be very similar if they're not-for-profit universities like all of the universities here today.
All right, perfect. So that does it for all the questions that we got. I appreciate all of those questions. It was nice having them. So I'd like to thank all of our panelists for calling in and helping make applying to schools much less of a headache for all the students than it possibly could have been. If you have any follow-up comments or questions, you can email me using the email on this slide, and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. You'll be able to view this webinar again shortly via the same link that you used to get here today. So if you missed any of it, like if you missed the first half of it, you can very easily go back and you can view it all again. This is all recorded and it's able to be viewed again. Also, be sure to check the School Finder events page tomorrow for information on our next webinar. That webinar is Going Abroad, which is taking place on December 7th at the same time at 6 p.m. Panelists for the webinar already include 4 United Kingdom schools, including University of Gloucestershire, the University of East London, University of Lincoln, and the return of BPP University. We'll also have one American institution, which is the Holt International Business School. Thanks again, everyone, and have a good night.